What is it about gay men and their cars? Hmm. So this week we're talking about whether or not the cars that we've owned in our lifetime have been gay cars. Oh, not the cars have been gay, or whether we've been gay in the cars, or whether the cars made us gay, or whether the cars made us appear to be gay, or whether they were just like cars that only gay people drove. I don't know. But I will go through the list and let you decide whether or not any of the cars that I have owned in my lifetime so far appear to be gay, made me gay, or are gay. Let's check them out now. The first car that I drove I did not own. It was actually a car that my dad let me drive while I was still living at home and going to high school. And that car was a 1964 Ford Fairlane station wagon. It was just a mess of a thing, but nonetheless, he had kind of given me full reign with it, and I did install an 8-track player and put speakers back in the back, up on the roof, inside, trying to get like the best sound that I could. But out of those old plastic 8-track speakers that they used to give you, with the long cords that you had to hide under the carpeting and all of that, you didn't really get good sound. But I did enjoy being able to drive, and in the place that I grew up, there was only like one big long strip of Main Street that you just drive up and down, and that car probably was the first one that put me right out there in the spotlight. The very first car that I ever actually owned or paid for out of my own money was a 1969 Cutlass Supreme. Had a 350 rocket engine in it, whatever that meant. And it was white, had black vinyl top on it. It was a 2-door with the bucket seats. Obviously was, very sporty. I guess I really thought I was something in it. I'm not sure how gay that thing was, but, I felt gay in it, I suppose. Somewhere in there about 1976, I guess. No, actually like 74. I owned a 1974 Hornet hatchback by AMC. The next car that I owned after that was, I believe, a 1976 Cutlass. More like a family car, actually, when you look at it. There was nothing real sporty about it. I believe it was a 4-door and didn't have anything special, but it was a good car nonetheless. The next car that I owned, I bought brand new. I was working at the phone company at that time, making pretty good money, and I thought that, I was hot stuff. So I grabbed hold of my dad's arm and said, I'd like to go buy a new car. And he said, well, son, if you got the money, I'll go and look at them with you. So because, he was going to have to be a co-signer on a loan for me because I had no credit whatsoever. We went and looked at the Datsun dealer. That's Nissan. To those of you who don't know, the Datsun used to be, or the Nissans used to be called Datsuns. It was the Datsun 280ZX, 1979, all black. Had a burgundy interior with a cassette tape player, and only had like 2 seats in the front, no seat in the back, just kind of a hatchback thing that went back. And that was a very interesting little automobile. It was a 5-speed, first time I had ever owned, and only time that I ever owned a standard transmission on a car. and boy, that thing would really go. It was, I guess I looked a little gay in that. I'm not sure. I guess I just didn't get real used to the having to shift gears all the time, even though that was kind of cool. But in 1981, I went out and bought another new car. And that was a 81 Pontiac Trans Am. This was a white car with a great big blue bird on the front, and I called the car the Bird. A lot of people gave me the Bird when I was driving it around. But nonetheless, that was probably the gayest car that I ever owned. But it was a nice car. I enjoyed it. It just stuck out so far. It seemed like the engine was just humongous, even though it was really no bigger than the engines that I'd had in my Cutlasses. But it appeared to be big. And it was interesting because the police liked to look at anybody who was driving one of those suckers, and if they caught you doing anything, if you forgot to put on your turn signal, if you didn't turn just right, if you didn't back out just right, always stopped you, gave you a ticket. I know this because I had so many tickets, they eventually suspended my license for 6 months, and that was not a fun time. So after the fiasco of driving the sports cars and the phase that I went through there, I decided to go back to my first love, and that was the Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme again. So in 1982, I bought another Cutlass Supreme, and that was more of a family style car. Great car, however, and I owned that car until 1987 when I traded it in on a 87 Chrysler LeBaron. I did not like the Chrysler LeBaron. It was kind of a lemon. But I did own it for a number of years, and but I had terrible time with it. Just didn't like it at all. That was when they started putting 4 cylinders in those cars, and I think a 4-cylinder just wasn't quite big enough for the LeBaron at that time. The LeBaron died on me. It just wasn't worth anything. I eventually sold the thing. It hardly ran at all for like $500 to a friend of mine that said, oh yeah, I want it, I'm going to get it fixed up. I don't think he ever really was able to do much with it. But I did get rid of it. In the meantime, I bought myself, and going American all the way, man, I decided to go with a Ford. Don't ask me why. I had never owned a Ford. I had driven the Ford back in my high school days that my dad owned, but it was the first time to ever actually go with one. I remember as a kid they used to say a Ford, F-O-R-D, meant for fix or repair daily. I didn't really have any trouble with the Ford. I bought a 1995 Ford Contour, and it actually wasn't a bad car. However, it did, in about 6 or 7 years, develop some major problems behind the dashboard, and they were electrical, and it was going to cost a lot of money to have that fixed, so I did not do it. I donated that car, and then bought a 2007 Nissan Versa, which is what I'm driving today, and I've owned that for a number of years, and I don't drive as much as I used to, so consequently I don't have very many miles on it. But so far it's been a pretty good car. Now, are any of those cars really gay? No. Had anybody really thought I was gay because I drove any of them? I don't believe so. But I have done a few gay things in all of those cars. I'll let you be the judge of what that means. But nonetheless, that's my list of cars. That is what I've owned, and so be it. You know, I don't know what my next car will be. I don't know if what I have now will be the last car I own. I have no idea. I doubt that it will be, but whatever it becomes, I'll try to make it as gay as I can. So until next time, I'll say goodbye. Don't forget to subscribe and take a look at all of the other guys' videos here on the channel, and check out everyone's personal channel as well, and give them a sub on that as well, and everybody will really appreciate it. Bye for now.